So hi, Mum.
I was just going to start and introduce the date, because I think it's really relevant with all these videos, and try and date stamp it at the start, because I want to make sure that everybody can see, if they watch it in a week, that they know it's a week old information. So if things change, that they're not drawing on the information. So it's Thursday here. So today's Thursday, the 7th of May. I'm Charlotte Pascoe. I'm from Australia, from Stocktown Lego General Manager, and I'll hand over to you guys.
I'm Glen Taylor. Okay, after you, Glen. You
go. Glen Couthino, one of the owners of Harcourts Beverly Hills, previously partner at R.T. Edgar in Melbourne. So been in real estate 35 odd years, auctioneer, and here I am in Beverly Hills.
And Ben?
That's quite an intro, isn't it? You being there in Beverly Hills. So we're Wednesday evening here, which is why I'm sitting in the dark. It doesn't excuse really long hair, but it does excuse the dark. So I'm Ben Taylor. I run, we have the master license to Keller Williams, which we're building in the UK.
Yeah.
And I'm based just in the southwest London and Surrey.
Ah, nice. So how big is Keller Williams over there?
So we've just launched our 10th market centre. We've got about 220 agents, and effectively we're kind of bringing Keller Williams to the UK at the time that it's just what the UK market needs.
Yeah.
In a self-employed model where we can actually help agents build wealth for themselves and deliver a much better experience, kind of professionalize the industry, which they have done in the States, they have done in Australia.
Yeah.
But we really want to take that whole standard across the UK, which is why we're growing so fast. So we're growing extremely quickly now, which is extremely exciting.
Fantastic.
Beautiful. So do you guys want to cover off, obviously we've got London and the US, and then obviously I can do Australia, but where are you up to at the moment, Glen, in terms of your restrictions, what you can and can't do, how you're actually handling a sale transaction? Because obviously things have changed. So do you want to just go through what's happening in the US at the moment?
So US is, I think, at about stage 5. So it's pretty heavy over here. All the shops, if you go out in the public, you've got to wear a mask. Open homes are banned. Public auctions are banned on site. So everything's done virtual. Inspections have to be done, one at a time. Masks, gloves, sanitizer, all those sort of things. But we're still transacting. We're doing business. It's all done virtually. There are people doing virtual open homes, but that doesn't work. And no one's ever going to buy a house unless they walk through it. So we have to walk somebody through a house. I took somebody today. I just opened the door and I sat in the car and they walked in and walked out because they were pretty nervous about COVID. So I said, look, I'll just sit in the car, go and have a look and leave. So people are okay with that. People with young children in a house don't like people in and out. But vacant houses are okay. Vacant, it's easy. If they've got a big family living in there, it's a little bit more complicated and they're on hold. But it doesn't look like things are going to change here for months and months. So people have just got on with it. So, okay, well, I better work. I need to sell my house. I'm leaving my wife. I can't stand it. I need to sell my house. Get on with it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think divorce is going to be going to be one of the big factors as to why people are selling, right? They say death, debt, and divorce, and I think that's really true. You put a really unhappy marriage in a pressure cooker, and I think you're going to find that divorce is going to happen at a higher rate than normal. In fact, I got some information from a girlfriend who looks at Google Analytics, and in the first week of COVID in Australia, one of the highly ranked searches in Google, one of the top ones, was income insurance and divorce lawyer. So the Google Analytics just went through the roof, and it had been a week. So I think, the one thing I'm saying to our agents is be prepared for divorce.
Well, real estate is death, divorce, job upgrade, job downgrade. So it's just life. Really doesn't matter realistically, it doesn't really matter for us if the market goes up or down. It makes no difference because we're only in the middle. We're a broker.
Yeah.
As long as you get transactions, that's the only thing that matters, right?
Yeah. But the strength of this market is, for us as agents, is to build good relationships through bad times. And, I make sure that I and all my sales guys try to talk to 30 or 40 people a day. That's the key in real estate. You talk to 30 or 40 people a day, no matter how stupid you are, you can't fail. Just to Most agents don't like picking up the phone. So don't email, turn your computer off, get on the phone, hit it hard all day, 7 days a week. You're going to stumble across something.
We did a session with Chris.
You don't have to talk real estate. I mean, I can ring 20 people and not even talk about a house.
Well, we said we did a session with Chris Helder a couple of weeks ago,
Oh, yeah.
and I love he said this is the first time that people want you to call. They are at home. They are dying from isolation. You call them 2 months ago and they kind of go, look, I'm really busy, don't have time, they don't call back. Now you call them, they're like, hi, how you going?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? And if you engage in a conversation with them, you're going to get so much further than what you would have 2 months ago. So whilst this is our reset moment, it's our ability to really connect with our clients. You've got to appreciate that they're actually wanting to connect right now. So it's a double. You've got the time and you've got the audience. So if you don't use this period of time to further your business, it's an absolute waste.
Yeah, and also I've got children at home. They're all helping the business. I mean, my son who's 17 and the other one's 16, post the mail, write letters to clients, do my social media for me, drop off packages when they go for a run. That's their job. Otherwise, they're not getting any food. How old are your kids, Ben?
Eldest one's 21,
and
then I've got 13 and a 10.
Right. They can work for you, right?
Well, actually, yeah, I think that's a pretty loose description, actually, Glenn, from the way I'm looking at it. We've got the homeschooling going on at the moment, of course.
Yeah, same,
you know, you're talking about the divorce thing. I think it's a great revealer, this period of time, isn't it? Yeah. If things weren't good before this, they probably ain't going to be a lot better.
No, true.
So the UK's been really interesting because we are obviously in lockdown still.
What does that look like for you?
So that is probably, you know, restaurants, pubs, everything's closed. You can go out for 1 hour a day to exercise, but you can't go and sit in a public place or say, oh look, you know, for my hour I'm going to sit and have a picnic. Can't do any of that. You can go out for exercise and then you need to go back in. You can go out for essential supplies. And we've been able to, so one of the things I did a year ago was build a technology-based lettings proposition because we were extremely well geared up for sales, not so much for lettings. And I'm particularly pleased about that because people might not commit. You know, you were just saying, Glenn, about that they're unlikely to buy a home unless they walk it through it. But people will let
it. Oh, yeah, they will, for sure.
So we've been able to do quite a few lettings deals actually, which is great. That's great for the agents. But even those, it's obviously restricted. You know, there can't have been anyone in the house for 24 hours before the viewing, and obviously it couldn't have had anybody infected in there. So there has to be, you know, it's pretty much a complete lockdown.
Yeah.
And we're literally for school. I was just reading up on Sundays. The Prime Minister on Sunday will be telling us what the stages of unlocking will look like, and it'll be a gradual process. I was on to a friend of mine in Austin, Texas, yesterday, and they were saying, you know, you've got 25% capacity now in restaurants and so on. So I'm guessing, in the UK, hotels and restaurants will be one of the last businesses to open. What we're hoping is that people can start moving house somewhere in mid-May, but it looks like it's going to be first week of June, which is, you know, really, really important for us to be able to get going again. But I think schools are going to remain, well, we don't know for certain yet, but it looks very likely schools will remain closed until September, which homeschooling, like probably the same in the US, but here in the UK, it's very difficult to get anything really going in terms of the economy if you're having to stay home to look after the children for obvious reasons. So there's going to be a lot of challenges through that. But from a market point of view, it's been fascinating because I've described, in fact, I did a big company meeting. We run something called State of Your Company every 3 months. And I was saying on there that it's almost like a frozen market. So people aren't pulling out of the market. They're just saying, right, we can't do anything right now, but we want to move and we will move. We just need to know when lockdown ends.
Yeah.
So we're not finding the deals that we had agreed. We're not finding we've lost them. Just finding that people need to wait and find out, right, when can I move again? Okay, let's get on with it. So, but the longer that goes on, of course, the harder it is for people, because from an agent perspective, that's quite serious, because it's a 3-month period of time for most deals to go through in the UK.
Yeah, right.
So, if you can say, oh, great, we'll start moving then in, let's say, June, or that's September time before that deal actually happens. So, it's not a fun picture, but equally for our business, it's making, I was saying to Charlotte, there's so many people joining our business now, because our growth is probably just going to be a lot quicker than we expected as a result of it. It's kind of driving more people to say, well, look, actually, I'm going to go and do that. We've run 58, we talk about captive audience, that I've run 58 classes over the last 4 weeks. So we do loads and loads of teaching in our company. 58 classes. We've put thousands of people through training over the last 4 weeks. I'm running a class next Thursday, and we've already got, I think, 250 or 300 people signed up for that. And then, but because lots of parents are doing homeschooling, I've decided to teach a class that we call Quantum Leap for Kids.
Yep.
And it's basically how to build a great life for yourself.
Right.
So we've got kids from all over the world, from America, from Australia, from South Africa, and obviously the continent. And we'll have all these kids on the call, and we're just going to teach them how to build an amazing life. And you talked about mindset at the beginning. If mindset for me and mindset for people around me, that's a huge part of, you want to build anything in life. You want to have any type of life, real estate or not, you're going to need a great mindset. So we've run a program called Mind and Body. And I've basically been doing that since day one of lockdown. Say, well, look, the first thing we're going to need to do is make sure that everybody start their day with some sort of meditation, some sort of yoga, some sort of exercise, and a decent breakfast, because they are going to need energy to keep themselves in a good mindset for a period of time of lockdown. And that's been amazing for us. It really has. We kind of kept everybody very energized all the way through it, which has been,
I think that's
crucial.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that all the agents, no matter what country they're in, are struggling. Like in Australia, we're, substantially better situation than I think what everybody else is. We managed to flatten our curve, so to speak, quite quickly. So I think we're looking at, removing the state of emergency. We got to stage 3. A couple of weeks ago in Victoria, they took away the capacity to do an open for inspection and an auction and absolutely everything. And then they added in over Easter that you couldn't do a private inspection. So we couldn't do anything. And there was like a 4-day period where I think every agent in Victoria was on meltdown, thinking, well, we can't even show somebody through privately. We managed to, over that weekend, confirm that we were now able to. So coming back on the Tuesday, it was almost like the agent's mindset was that things kept getting taken away, and then you inserted that back. And even though they had it 3 days before, and it was only a couple of days in a hiatus where you couldn't do anything, they suddenly had this moment, I think, where they went, oh, hang on a second, we can do this. And it changed the mindset, and it got a lot of people re-energized. We can do private inspections. You can't go through with more than one person. You don't have to have gloves and masks or any of that sort of thing. You do need to sanitize and make sure that it's, it's cleaned off. If tenants are comfortable, you can do it with a tenant, but the tenant has to exit, or the occupier who's in there. So we've got some pretty good, a pretty good scenario, I think, in the scale of what's happening in the US and what's happening in the UK. I think we're quite lucky in Australia. But I think, the one thing is that mindset, and we've spent a lot of time in Australia, every trainer's talking about it, about making sure that you're motivated and what you're doing in this period. So, one thing we've been talking to our group about is, who do you want to be on the other side? What do you want your business to look like? Not only have we got a pause in time, you've got the time to do it, you've now got a receptive audience for making the calls. So, what are you guys doing? I know that you, Glen, you've been talking a lot about what you're doing with your team and the motivation and how you operate. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Provide some inspiration for anyone? who's watching this.
Well, I think you've got to get into a mindset first. And the thing is, if you don't get out of bed early, go for a walk, come back home, dress up, set up a screen behind you, and look. There's no point ringing people in your tracksuit pants. You know what I mean? You've got to at least look like you're in business, at least from here up, right?
I was going to say, Glenn, I have seen quite a few photos. Business at the top and some board shorts. Here we go. There we go.
Fantastic.
But, you know, it's good because if I'm ringing customers, it looks like I'm in a work frame of mind. I'm sitting outside, it's pretty relaxing on a balcony, and I'm ringing people. I think that's pretty important. And you know, I need to be on the phone by 9 o'clock to talk to bankers, lawyers, accountants, customers. And you probably need to put in minimum 4 to 5 hours a day, at least, into your business. Otherwise, it's just going to close. It's not going to happen. So 4 or 5 hours a day solid on the phone. And then I go and watch the Donald Trump show, which is the highlight of my day, a bit of laughter. And, but I make sure that I've, you know, like this morning, I think I've sent out a dozen birthday messages, a couple of anniversary flowers. I've rung 20 or 30 of my customers. I've had one-on-ones with 5 or 6 of my key salespeople, just give them some coaching. And, you know, another hour or so, I've got to show a couple of houses and I'm done.
So, Glenn, I know this is very much habitual for you. You have done this throughout your career. When I introduced you to Ben earlier, I said you're one of the most notoriously, you know, respected, well-known agents in Victoria and in Australia, because you are so, you know, we joked about how you send so many flowers, you went and bought a florist because it was just, you give and you give. But let's say you've got somebody who hasn't touched their database, and this is a scenario that we're working through with new agents or agents who are kind of either new to the industry, new to the company, or they've got a database where they haven't touched them for, you know, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. With coronavirus putting us into a different bubble, what would what would your recommendation be to those people to, you know, to come out the other side and gain market share?
The worst thing they can do is hang up on you. Pick up the phone and say to someone, look, I've been busy. I'm sorry I haven't spoken to you for a couple of years, but I want to see how are you? How's your family? You know, just pick the phone up. And it's a very easy business. Real estate does not work unless you pick the phone up. It never work electronically. It's never going to work by email. And in this climate, every person that's in the business that's in sales needs to talk to people. And I've done that for 38 years. I don't know any better. I just make connections and get business. And that's all they have to do. That's all your sales guys have to do. They can learn all the product knowledge in the world, but if they don't use their telephone to talk to people, they're not going to close deals and put money in the bank. And, you know, when somebody comes back to me and says, I've got this great client, my first question to them is, what's the wife's name? What's the children's name? I've got a client of mine who's a baseball fan, and he's a Dodgers fan. He's fanatic. I said to him, what are you passionate about? He goes, baseball's my go-to. So I made sure that him and his wife and all the kids got a baseball Dodgers hat a couple of days later. He'll never forget it. I look for one special thing about that person so that I don't forget them. And I think that's all they have to do. Forget about real estate. Real estate agents are actually not in real estate. They're in people.
I think successful real estate agents.
I love that Glenn asked that question, because it's such a simple question to ask people what they're passionate about. And I don't know about in the States or Australia, but I can tell you, not a lot of people get asked what they're passionate about. And you know, the reason you know that in the UK, because I ask it all the time with people, and most people go, like that's a really, I need to think about that, because I haven't really thought about what I'm really passionate about. And it's a great engaging, it's even just being asked it and really listening to the answer will be a memorable conversation. And then you got
to do something about it. Do one little thing.
Definitely.
Like I got a client that told us that they were passionate about jigsaw puzzles. So we made a jigsaw puzzle of her family. I've got a client that was passionate about horse riding, and I bought him just a small brush for the horse, you know, just one little thing that remember that they don't forget me. Because I might meet somebody, but they may not transact for 2 years. So my first meeting has to be memorable. It has to be amazing. And if it's amazing, I won't get forgotten.
So one thing that we're talking a lot about is not actually talking about real estate at the moment. So if you call up and you're connecting with somebody and you haven't spoken to them before, and they may be in your database and they've been sitting there, if you call up and say, hi, I want to talk to you about the real estate market. We've sold 5 properties. We've found that the blah, blah, blah. They're not interested unless they're considering making a real estate transaction. You know, I had a session with one of our groups yesterday, and I said to them, if you were to sell your property in Australia, would you sell it now or in 6 months? And they were like, well, maybe I don't know. And I said, well, hang on. Would you rather wait and see what the market's going to do based on the fact that we've just talked about the fact that the prices are maintaining, the transactional numbers are reduced, but would you sell your property now, or would you wait for potentially some fallout from the economic situation, unemployment, all of those types of things, banks maybe tightening their strings? Would you sell your property now or later? And they said, well, now. And I said, okay, so that's the message you've got to get. Phil Harris was talking about the difference between an agent procrastinating, a vendor or a buyer procrastinating, is how good the agent actually is, which I think is great. So if you've got,
the key is that in the conversation, because I'm in real estate, I won't bring up property unless they ask me, but they always ask me. The first question, like you say, is, how's the market? And I'm in. I'll tell them we've closed 5 deals and we've got 2 auctions. If they don't bring it up, I won't bring it up at all. But they'll ask. Guarantee they'll ask you.
You need to talk about something on a human level. So if you're connecting with someone and they don't know you from a bar of soap, what you want is in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, when they think about real estate, they know you, they like you, and they trust you, which you've been exceptional at, Glen. Because people do know you. I mean, when we caught up in LA, you updated it, and all of a sudden I'm getting emails and stuff, which is great. But it's really interesting to, I think, for agents to now spend the time and reevaluate, reevaluate what success is. Is it that you make your, this time last year I did 5 sales this month. This time 2 years ago I did 5 sales this month. This year I've only done 1, therefore I'm failing. Well, if there's only 5 sales that have been done and you've done 1 of them, you've effectively got 20% of the market share. So that's not a bad situation. So you've got to reevaluate it. But when you're calling people and you're reaching out to them, if you're sitting there on the phone going, hi, I want to talk about property, they're not going to engage. But if you call up and say, look, I know we haven't spoken for a period of time, or I've never spoken to you, or you're in our database and you know what, I know that you live in the area. Here's some local people who are delivering fruit and veg, and we've organised for a cafe because we want to support our businesses locally. They're going to give a free coffee for anyone who comes down and grabs lunch. So I just want to check, if I'm going to send this through to you, is this still your email address? Yes, great. Are you still living in Smith Street? Yep, fantastic. You're cleaning your database, you're getting information, you're sending them something for nothing. And they're more likely to write back in that moment. If you can make 30 good connections with someone, give them information, they'll write back and engage with you. And it's easier then. So if you do that, I was saying, if you make 30, 40 connections every day, have a really good conversation every day for 3 months, it's about 800 or 900 people that are qualified people in your database that wouldn't have been there if coronavirus hadn't happened.
Yeah, it's impossible for something not to happen. And the first thing I do when I meet somebody generally is I normally try and find out their sporting side, right? So because then I might ring somebody up and say, your football side sucks. I'd have to talk real estate, because I can ring up and say, good year for you. You haven't played a game this year, so you haven't lost one. We can talk about Manchester United or whatever Ben, what is your
I know you and your AFL.
To me, what both of you guys are describing is exactly right, and that's human connection. It's not a real estate connection, it's human connection. Business is done through the relationship. So and like you say, Glenn, people talk about the real estate, they'll ask you about the real estate piece. But my conversations over the last few weeks have been about how you, in your household, how's it going?
Yeah.
I've had some amazing conversations where I've said to me, tell me the biggest thing you've learned in the last 6 weeks from being in lockdown. And they'll say, I'll tell you what I have done, and they've done this. And I said, now tell me what you're going to keep in your life as a result of the last 6 weeks. So in the next 6 months, what's going to stay in your life as a result of what you've learned in the last 6 weeks? We've had some fantastic conversations off the back of those 2 questions. Why? Because it's interesting. Now, off that relationship, you then end up in wonderful conversations about doing business together, because we now have a connection. But it's just like anything else, isn't it? Look, it's a while since I've been out speed dating, frankly, but if I did start going there, if I was out dating tomorrow, I'm not going to sit down and say, let me tell you, I do this, I do that, I've done this, I've done that, I've done the other, this and the other. What kind of date is that going to be? You're going to say, well, why are you here? What's going on? What are you passionate about? What do you love? What do you not love? What are things you enjoy spending some time doing? They're normal conversations not talking about the subject matter of let's find out if we want to start spending weekends together or maybe move into a house together. It's like, what the hell's that kind of question?
And it's important to keep reasonably good records, because when you meet that person again 4 years later, you know who their football side is. You know that they're a Manchester United fan.
Correct.
And I've got a client who's I've sold for 3 times. He's divorced 3 times. So last time I spoke to him, I said, you know, how are you going in Corona? Because you're on wife number 3. You're okay, you know. And we had a laugh, and you've got to be able to have some humour in it. You know, I've been in their lives, so it's pretty important.
Totally
agree. Have with the UK and the US, have you found that there's been how are the actual values of the properties going? Are they fluctuating? Are they staying? And then also in addition to that, what's the transactional numbers that are happening? Are they reducing or?
For us, the prices have stayed the same, constant. They might be off a few percent, but nothing dramatic. The numbers have come back. The numbers have probably come back, you know, 20% in numbers of transactions, but the prices are still the same. Hasn't moved much.
Yeah, we're kind of similar in that we've had clearly a massive drop off while in lockdown in terms of numbers of transactions, and a huge drop off in the number of new listings coming to the market. But there's no difference. All the predictions are level on price, almost identical. Yeah. And then, and probably not enough to stimulate growth in price, negligible, couple of % over the remainder of the year. But we're expecting it to be, in the UK, we normally have somewhere around a million transactions a year. And it'll be interesting to see whether it goes down, but it'll still be somewhere between 750 and a million, even with that frozen period. So, like I said, I think, you know, I was on the phone to one of my agents this evening, and he was saying he's getting 5 inquiries for buyers a day, even though he's not putting loads of new stock on the market. So he just can't wait for the lockdown to end. And I think his situation is fairly typical. People will get going as soon as they're allowed to. And there may be more transactions as a result of, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that say, actually, what we're going to find in the UK, I don't know about you guys, Glenn, but almost certainly big companies having a real serious look at, do we need 20,000 square feet of space in central London when actually people have been able to work from home? You know, we might well have people now doing 2 days a week at home, and they might reduce their costs in central London by 25%. Will move as a result of that.
And the thing is for agents now is if you haven't done your work in quarantine, when it finishes, the market will leave you dead. If you haven't made your calls every day and worked from home 3 or 4 hours a day, made your 30 calls, and when everyone's ready to go, you'll have relationships built, people to meet, houses to sign up. But if you haven't done your work in quarantine, when that comes out of quarantine, you'll be out of the market for probably 3 or 4 months because you won't be able to get back into it. So you need to be in the game now.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, we've been looking at this as well, that there will be, I think, an exit of a number of agents in this industry because they won't make it. They'll choose to get out. They'll go and find something else by choice. But as a result of the agents who are hungry, who are doing the connections, who are doing the work now, those are the people who will gain market share. And for the people who are just waiting for it to come back, it's like waiting for an appraisal to land in your hands. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So you've got to go out and find it. You've got to go out and it's not just about finding the listings. It's more about maintaining your market share at this point. Because if you don't maintain it and you're not tracking it, if you don't know what your market share is at the moment, you need, like everybody needs to go and work that out. If you've got 1%, 5%, 20%, it doesn't matter what the number is. You need to know what that is. Because if you are tracking that from last year, last month, this month, and you're watching it, if you're going from 30%, 20%, 10%, doesn't matter how many properties are coming on the market. That's just an excuse as to why you're not doing well. But if you're watching your market share and it's 30%, 30%, 30%, you're okay. Even better, if it's 30%, 35%, 40%, then you're doing the right thing. But I think for the people who are waiting for this to get over and for us to be able to get through to the other side, my thing to them as well is that the market share will be taken by somebody else who's hungry.
So Charlotte, we run something called Survive to Thrive, and I'm absolutely convinced that what you're saying there, we talk about this all the time. What you're going to be, when the gun goes off and lockdown ends, you need to already be dressed to run. If you're taking your tracksuit off and looking for your trainers, you're going to be well behind where everyone's set off.
Yeah.
So what we've been teaching all the agents to do is build the relationships, really strengthen the relationships, and build your database, nurture that database, that client base. And then as soon as people are allowed to, you'll be the one with the relationships, which is exactly what you're quite frankly brilliant at doing, aren't you? You're great at building a relationship fast and maintaining that relationship. And that's what we're teaching all of our agents to do here. And
the beauty is that
I think you've got a bad connection, Glenn.
Made my calls. I said, I know who the 10 people are I need to go and see because I've done the work.
Yeah. We're losing you again, Glenn.
That's right, we lost you there.
Oh,
there we go. I think we're getting you back, Glen.
Hello, 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yes, you're just a frozen version of yourself. No, we've lost you again.
He's dead right, though, Charlotte.
300 people out there. I know who the 10 people are to go and see because I'm ready for it.
Sorry, Glenn. You've dropped in and out there.
Okay, that's all right. Got me
we didn't
now?
hear you. What did you say?
1 2.
Yes, we do. That's a bit better.
I said, okay, so it's important that when lockdown is finished, out of the 300 people that we might have spoken to, I know the top 5 that I have to see on the first day because they're the ones that want to do business.
Yeah.
So I've lined them up. I'm ready. I'm not going to, lockdown comes and then I've got to ring 300 people. I've already done all that. And I'm ready because I know who the 5 or 6 people want to put their house on the market immediately. And the agents that start calling when lockdown's done, they're going to miss 6 months of business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to touch on, Glenn, that I love that you said before, and so I'm just going to get you cover off on that again, is when you lose a listing, you know, I know that there's a lot of people who are going to be, you know, fighting tooth and nail to get every listing at the moment. I think, you know, one thing as well is just being selective in your listing. If you in your listings, so if you're just going to put something on and it's going to take up 90% of your time, they're unreasonable in their pricing, it's not going to sell. Do you want that business? I know that we all want business because we're all, you know, dealing with less transactions, but being selective. But if you really want a listing and you think it's great, but you don't quite catch it, you use the term being the best loser. Do you want to talk about what you do there?
Yeah, well, if I miss the business, you'll get a bunch of flowers, you'll get some chocolates or something. Your kids will get a little gift and a card from me saying, I'm sorry you didn't choose me. Good luck with the sale. I always say you're in great hands with the other agent. He's a really good operator. Even if he's not, I'll never badmouth him. I'll write a compliment to the other agent. I'll then email the other agent as well. And I'll say, listen, I noticed you just listed the house that I was chasing. They're really nice people. They're in great hands with you. I wish you all the best. And I just move on. In most cases, they always come back to me second time round, always. And the other agent is happy because I haven't made it difficult for him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just took a $6.5 million listing a couple of days ago from another big Beverly Hills agent. And I rang her and I said, look, I've signed this house up. I just want you to know I've listed it. They came to me. I've signed it up. I wanted to tell you that. And if I can help you in any way, let me know. You've done a great job with them. And I'm sorry it's come to me, but I now have the business. And she said, oh, no agent's ever rung me and said that. I really appreciate your call. She goes, can I give you the photos and she gave me all the photos. She gave me the floor plan. She gave me 2 of the buyers' names. And she said, I'm really championing for you to sell it. I said, if I sell it, I'll take you out for lunch. Most agents don't have the courtesy to ring the losing agent. And they just let them see it on the internet, and then the agent hates them. Why create enemies?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a
nice
shift in
touches,
headspace.
and I like that.
Yeah.
It's bringing
to be honest,
professionalism.
if I do sell it, the commission's going to be $150,000. I'll probably spend $1,000 on her. Like I'll buy her something really special because you know what? It's a lifelong investment in a relationship.
Absolutely. Maybe she'll go and work with you too.
She might. Well, for example, I've just employed this woman from one of the big agencies, the agency here in Beverly Hills. Fantastic woman. And she's been in real estate 20 years. She's sold $500 million in real estate, talking to a couple of agents. When I got off the phone to her, she had an Uber at her house 30 minutes later with a massive package from Harcourts, my face, my profile, all my stuff on her doorstep within 30 minutes of my phone call. I had her at that spot. And that's why she's working for me now. And she just listed a house and sold it already. But I'm good at the hunt. So if I'm chasing an agent, she got a text, she got an email, she got an Uber. The next day she got another Uber with some posters for her children's site, for her grandchildren. And a day after, she got a hat delivered to her house for her husband, John, Jon, spelled correctly, with Harcourts on it. That was it. She didn't talk to any other agent. We were done on those first 3 deliveries.
I reckon he's quite good, Charlotte.
I told you.
I figured it all out on my own in the last 40 minutes on the call. I've established that Glen is very good.
He's very good.
Honestly, seriously, I love listening to how you're doing it, because that's how you should do it. And you'll be first amongst all in that kind of. And it wouldn't matter whether you're in Australia or you're in the UK or you're in Beverly Hills. You're always going to fare extremely well. Always.
Yeah.
And I think that the key there is,
as I was saying,
yeah, go. Sorry, Glen.
As an agent in Beverly Hills, and I don't know a lot of people. I've only been here 12 months. So every time we go to a restaurant, for example, I've never left a restaurant without writing a thank you letter to the owner and a thank you letter to the waiter. I've done it 40 times now already. And I know all the owners of every restaurant, all the waiters give me the best table. They always recommend their customers to me. The local hairdresser, I've sent him chocolates and flowers 3 or 4 times. Anyone walks in there and said they're looking to buy or sell a house, he calls me and says, come now. So I've got the community working for me.
So here's a question. If you go to the hairdresser, how much do you pay for your haircut, Glen?
$10 for a shave. That's it. But then I deliver a big box of croissants to all the staff. And I do it every time. And I've got 3 agents who work for me that got referred by that hairdresser and 2 listings from that one guy. Because that's the best place to go for gossip is hairdressers.
I'm getting really uncomfortable on the subject of hair, guys, because this is getting very serious now, right up here. I mean, this is.
I think everyone's going to be due for a haircut.
I'm just not brave enough to shave it all off yet. Although my kids have offered to do it, but we're just not doing it. We're just not doing it.
Have you got boys or girls?
Both. So I got 2 boys and a girl. The eldest one's a girl.
21-year-old.
Yeah.
The 21-year-old's a girl? You better give me a name.
So Isabel's the eldest.
What's her name?
Isabel.
Isabeelle.
Double-L-E. And then the boys, Henry. And then Hugo. Yep.
And no real estate agents in there?
Not yet. Although the youngest one, you see this book? Have you ever read that? So
yes, right. Okay, yeah. Okay, I've got it.
So my youngest one is studying this with me. It's by his choice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's an agent.
I've just released a book. I've just released my own book. Yeah.
What have you put out?
It's called The People Lover.
How entirely appropriate for you.
Have you got a copy that you can download it, or you can?
Come on. It's you can download it. It's been published throughout America. It only came out 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it's really about family, real estate, client for life mentality, and spoiling people for a long time.
Yeah. Charlotte, you're going to make sure that we get each other's contact details through this, yeah? So
I will, absolutely. I think, the commonality between the UK, the US, and Australia here is that you need to go back, we talk about the old school agents who are all about the people, right? They're all about the communication. Then you've got this new train of thought. There you go, people lover.
Awesome.
Glen with a beard. But then you've got this other new wave of agents who are all about the digital side, and they're relying on just digital. So they're trying to EDM everybody, Facebook, social media, and they're not concerned so much about the people side because they believe that digital will be the answer. Then you've got the old school people who are all about the relationship and not adapting with the digitalization of what's happening. And, the one message that I've got to our group is that you've got to be aware that the relationship needs to be supported by the digital. The digital can't replace. And so what I'm hoping will happen out of this is that there'll almost be like a midpoint between the old school agents. If they adapt, they come forward a little bit. The digitalization agents who are all about digital and EDMs and emails will come a little bit more to the humanitarian side. And what's left in that middle is a more hybrid version, and I guess a more balanced version of what an agent should be. I don't think you can rely on one or the other. And Glen, you're an amazing example of people who are so customer focused.
I post twice a day on all my social media platforms, which is Facebook, business and personal, Instagram, LinkedIn, WeChat, Twitter, and, wait for it, TikTok. 7 social media platforms, twice a day, 7 days a week.
I will back that because I follow your social medias and I see more Glen Couthino in my life than I ever have.
And I'm 55, so you can't say you're too old. And, you know, much to my kids' disgust, I'm getting more followers on TikTok than they are. But I'm building a brand. And, you know, TikTok, I posted one funny thing, something funny about my mother, and one iconic $40 million house every day. So it's building a brand, and you can't ignore it. You have to be on all social media platforms. And I get a lot of business off my social media.
Which is the biggest, which is the one that you get the most interaction with or engagement with? Instagram here in LA. Facebook is more my age group, so 40 upwards. And TikTok is the younger market, which is early, 20s, who still sell houses. So, and then I do WeChat, which is the Chinese version. So, and then LinkedIn for the professionals. So I just put the same post on all 7 sites, 7 days a week, twice a day.
I think that's a really good point for you as well, though. TikTok's really important around Beverly Hills because I think you guys, when I was there, I was quite blown away by the very bizarre economy that exists in one postcode. I've never seen anything like it. You've got 20-year-olds rocking up in a Lamborghini, and you think, oh, it's a little bit different to Australia. So I think, you do, for you particularly in LA, you do need to make sure you're catering to that younger generation because in a few years they're going to be selling multi-million-dollar houses and buying them as well. So if they know who the person is, you captivate, you catch every single type of demographic, old, young, digital, not digital. You do all the old school things for the older people as well. And I know you do it for younger people, but it's those little touch points. And I think you're very good at finding a way to connect. Doesn't matter how old they are or where they come from. Everyone seems to connect with you in some way, which I think is an absolute art, Glen.
Well, we do, I think on average, about 4,000 handwritten Christmas cards a year. I have done for nearly 30 years. Handwritten with a photo of myself and my wife and children to my top clients. But, you send out 4,000 cards a year, you're going to get business back.
So do you start writing those in January?
They try and do that. No, we start about October.
Yeah.
But I've got clients that, a lady sell a house with me in Raheen for $3.5 million last year. And she's kept every one of my Christmas cards for 30 years. And she said to me, I don't get Christmas cards to my children. You're the only person in my life, she's 80, that sends me a Christmas card. Why would she sell a house with anyone else? 30 years in a row. Why would she go to anyone else? And her son wanted her to use another agent. And she said, well, you don't even send me a Christmas card, so I'm not listening to you. I'm using Glen. So stubborn about it.
No,
how many times a year?
Sorry?
Yeah. How many times a year would the average person on your database have something from you?
So at least 4 to 5 times a year minimum. Minimum 5 things in the mail a year, and minimum 3 or 4 calls a year. And if they're selling, then every 2 weeks. If they're hot, if they're going to sell in 12 months, then every couple of weeks. But if they're just sitting there and they're not going to move for 3 or 4 years, then definitely 4 touch points a year minimum.
And what do you put into those touch points? Sorry.
It might be we just closed this house, we just sold this house, we just listed this house in your area, just wanted you to know, or happy birthday, definitely birthday, wedding anniversary, so they get those 2. So really, you're going to get a birthday card or chocolates or flowers, a wedding, something for your children, and you might get an anniversary card on the year you moved into the house. One of my clients' kids just published on Facebook that he won an award at school, so I sent him some chocolates for the 10-year-old kid to say congratulations. That's enough for him to show mum, and he's going to remember that for the rest of his life.
would you budget on an annual basis as a business owner? Would you budget on an annual basis to say, right, I'm going to have this percentage of my revenue?
10%.
I was going to guess at 10. So you would go 10.
Definitely 10% of my income. And I don't spend any money on print media and advertising for my customers. Or I don't have to advertise for business. I just spoil the client. And that's the best word of mouth advertising. One of my clients was studying a law degree and, a medical degree. She wants to be a doctor. So I had a badge made for her court saying Dr. Jones. And I delivered it to the parents saying, this is for your daughter when she graduates.
Nice touch.
So all those little things are really important.
That's good. I like it. Very good.
That's great. Well, I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
Lovely to see your faces.
Yeah, Brooke's going to take a photo. Hang on one sec. It's my daughter. Go, darling.
Hi.
Hey.
Where are you going?
Great. How are you?
She's been in real estate with me since she was 16, so 9 years now.
Well, I'm going to stop recording, so we'll pause this.
She's going to take a photo. You ready?